Welcome to the Texas Cannabis Collective Weekly Update for the week of September 17th, 2022. I'm Jesse Williams. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at txcannaco.com. That's our website. And search for Lone Star Collective Podcast and Texas Cannabis Collective in your search engine to get updates about our show and weekly news. Likes and subscribes do go a long way to help others receive cannabis news updates on all platforms. Lone Star Collective and the Texas Cannabis Collective updates are sponsored by Thrive Apothecary. For more information, visit thrivetx.com. Support also comes from Oak Cliff Cultivators. For more information about Oak Cliff Cultivators, visit oakcliffcultivators.com. We've got upcoming events in Texas as well. On October 8th is the Texas Marijuana March and Freedom Festival, the Burnett Park in Fort Worth, Texas at 12 p.m. For more information, visit our events tab menu in the Texas Cannabis Collective website. As well, on October 15th is the Referendum Festival from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Private Park, 313 Nicola Avenue, San Marcos, Texas. This week in cannabis news, a new poll shows a majority of Republicans support a variety of marijuana reforms. Fabricio Lee and Associates recently completed a survey of 1,000 self-reported Republican voters nationally. The report states that GOP voters are extremely supportive of legal cannabis companies being given the same rights as any other legal cannabis business, and that GOP voters want the federal government to get out of the state's way and let them, not the federal government, regulate cannabis. 73% agree that legal cannabis companies should be entitled to the same rights as any other legal business. 76% agree that if states legalize cannabis, the federal government should not fight the state. 65% say that legal cannabis companies should have access to the banking system and should be able to open and use bank accounts like any other legal business. 69% favor sentence reviews for people convicted of non-violent cannabis crimes. 56% favor expunging cannabis convictions from a person's personal record if adult use of cannabis is now legal in their state. 76% favor legalizing cannabis for medical purposes. And GOP voters are split 47% to 46% on legalizing cannabis for adult use. This comes about as Texans were recently made aware again of comments made by Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick earlier this year. Dan made comments to the Texas media company owners Liz Grow and Patrick Pope of Grow House Media at a town hall meeting to support his and Donna Campbell's campaigns this year. The Lieutenant Governor said publicly that he is, quote, just not there yet, with the reasoning behind that being, quote, public is just not there yet. Texans across the political spectrum sounded off to this, noting that even with the numbers from earlier polls, that Dan was clearly in the wrong when he made that statement. The video created by the two advocates of their experience features headlines displaying polls showing a support that runs contrary to Dan's comments. Texas will be voting on their entire legislative makeup and most statewide positions to include, but not limited to, governor, lieutenant governor, ag commissioner, and attorney general in the upcoming November election. The FDA's response to lack of CBD regulations and hemp bill advice was labeled completely insufficient this past week. Several members of Congress sent a letter to the FDA to express disappointment in a response the FDA gave to them regarding questions they had about hemp and CBD products. The letter opens stating that this one-page technical assistance, which took the agency nearly 4 months to provide in response to their request, is simply a reformatting of a document provided to Congress over 2 years ago. Further stating that it does not address provisions of the bill drafted specifically to address product safety and is completely insufficient response at this time when cannabidiol products are proliferating around the country. Representatives Kathleen Rice, a Democrat from New York, Morgan Griffith, a Republican from Virginia, Angie Craig, a Democrat from Minnesota, and Dan Crenshaw, a Republican from Texas, were the Congress members behind the writing of the letter. The letter continues with noting that states have stepped in to create their own dietary and food guidelines or framework to deal with the issue, that these regulations created are a, quote, direct result of the FDA's inaction, lack of clarity, and refusal to engage meaningfully on the issue. The bipartisan group noted to the FDA that despite their calls for more data, that, quote, waiting for perfect answers to every conceivable question before taking any steps to establish a federal regulatory framework is unacceptable. A U.S. congressman has stated that ending drug testing for workplace could solve many supply chain issues and labor disputes. Representative Earl Blumenauer, a Democrat from Oregon, has proposed that the drug testing standards for the workforce undergo changes. He noted that recent rail strikes that have been averted are full of jobs that have a requirement of specialized skills, but a job pool that has shrunk by drug testing requirements. These are requirements that place qualified candidates out of the running for job positions over items they ingested up to 6 weeks prior to a test. This also gets qualified workers disqualified from continuing with their job by drug test when they were not intoxicated or consuming on the job. Blumenauer said, "A lot of these shortcomings in terms of the supply chain are that people do not qualify for jobs because they've used marijuana sometime in the last 6 weeks, which doesn't affect their ability to do their job, but it throws them out of the consideration." This runs into a clash of ideologies as presented by Texas Senator Brian Birdwell in the 2019 legislative session when the state-level senator mentioned on the Senate floor of Texas that his constituents were worried about people consuming cannabis. The reason for their worry was that employers have a hard time finding candidates for jobs when they're failing drug tests for cannabis. Advocates in the past have noted that a possible answer to both of these issues would be to drop the current drug testing standard, which looks for metabolites created by processing cannabis that was ingested, to then move to a standard of identifying intoxicated individuals to deal with the safety issue at the root of the drug testing discussion. That is it for this week in Cannabis News Review here at the Texas Cannabis Collective. If there's something going on in the Texas cannabis space you think others should be aware of, just drop us a note in our contact form online. Have a safe week, Texas, and stay hydrated to beat the heat.